Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Ngayon po, ang ating pag-aaralan ay tungkol sa parabola with vertex at HK. Ito ay nasa subject na pre-calculus at ang parabola ay isa sa conic section. Okay, so ano yung standard equation of a parabola wherein the vertex is not at the origin? Meaning vertex is at HK. So we have here first, if our reference of axis of symmetry is along the y-axis. Okay? Pag ang axis of symmetry is along the y-axis, we have two standard equation of a parabola first. The square of x minus h equals 4p times y minus k. Okay? Bakit ang graph nito opens upward? Kasi ang tatandaan nyo lang, kung ang may square ay variable x, it's a function. Kung function siya, it means the graph should be opens upward or downward. Okay. And we have this, the illustration of the graph of this standard equation of a parabola. Another, the square of x minus h equals negative 4p times y minus k. Graph opens downward. Why? Because the coefficient of y minus k is negative. That is why that's opens downward. So we have here the illustration or example of the graph of this kind of equation. Okay. Another is when the axis of symmetry along the x-axis. Pag sinabing axis of symmetry along the x-axis, the opening of the graph is sideward. It can be to the right side or to the left side. Okay, paano natin madidetect na ang opening niya ay to the right side or to the left side? Ang tatandaan natin ay ang may square na variable. If Kung y ang may square na variable, then the graph opens sideward. Paano natin malalaman kung to the right? If the coefficient of x minus h is positive or x term is positive. So that's opens to the right. And we have this illustration. Okay, another is, we have here the square of y minus k equals negative 4p times the quantity of x minus h. Opens to the left because ang may square na variable ay y at ang coefficient ng x ay negative. So yun lang tatandaan, and that's the example of the illustration of the graph. Okay, let's proceed to the general equation of a parabola, both when the vertex lie along the y-axis. So we have here, pag y-axis or the graph opens upward or downward, ang may square lang yung x. And then, the variable x or term with x, that the coefficient is d. The variable y, so ang coefficient niya ay e, and the constant term is represented by f. Galing ito sa general equation of the conic or second degree equation. Okay, equals 0. Take note, pag general equation, laging naka-equate sa 0. And another is, when the axis of symmetry is along the x-axis, meaning sideward ang graph, ano yung clue? Ang may square ay variable y. Okay. So, yun. Proceed na tayo sa mga formula. Halimbawa, hindi nyo alam ang techniques, so of course, we have here the different formula of the standard forms of the parabola when the vertex is at HK. Pag sinabing HK, hindi siya sa origin. Okay. Okay. Pag-usapan natin ano yung tatalakayin. I will present the standard equation. Then, the formula of the focus, the directives, the endpoint of the latus rectum, the axis of symmetry, and the opening of the graph. We have here, when the standard form is the square of x minus h equals 4p times the quantity of y minus Okay, ibig sabihin, the graph opens upward. And this one, when the graph opens downward. Ano ang pagkakaiba? Ang clue dito sa upward and downward, first, ang may square ay x. Second, the coefficient of y variable is negative. Yun lang tandaan. Ang may square h, then the coefficient of y variable is negative, downward. Pag positive, upward. Now, ano yung clue pagkuha ng focus? Tingnan nyo yung walang square na variable. Ang walang square na variable dito ay variable y. So therefore, yung value ng p, doon nyo i-add. Ha? I-add yung focus, yung focal length or yes, the focal length. Okay. Variable y meaning sa focus is the y value. So k plus p or k minus p. Paano naman natin malalaman sa endpoints of the latus rectum? Kinokopya lang po. Whatever the y value of the focus, yun din ang y value of the endpoint of the latus rectum. Then, so if you notice, the x-coordinate of the endpoint of the latus rectum is represented by h plus or minus 2p. Ang clue lang nang yan ay dinidivide ko lang yung length of the latus rectum by 2. Okay. And the axis of symmetry is x equals h. Tandaan ha? Pag upward, downward, x equals h yung axis of symmetry. And the directrix is y equals k plus or minus p. Okay. How about naman if the graph opens sideward to the right or to the left? We have here the equation, the square of y minus k squared equals 4p times the quantity of x minus h, or square of y minus k equals negative 4p times the quantity of x minus h. So we have here to compare for the focus, okay, coordinate of the focus. Ang clue lang dito ay ano yung variable na walang square? X. Meaning, ang value ng p i-add nyo sa x value ng focus. If you notice here, h plus p or h minus p. Bakit minus dito? Because of the direction of the graph or the value of p is negative. So, h minus p. Now, ganun din sa endpoint of the latus rectum. Kung x yun, so nagdagdag tayo sa focus, doon din kayo magdadagdag sa x-coordinate ng latus rectum. Or simply, kinokopya lang. Okay? Kinokopya lang siya. So, yun. Then, ano ang clue naman? Ang clue sa directrix, okay? Ang clue sa directrix is the opposite. It's always the opposite ng may square. Ang may square x, therefore, y equals. Tatandaan ha? Then, the opposite of the value of y. Then, for the sideward, ang may square ay y, ang opposite niya ay x. Then, ang kukunin natin ay sa x-coordinate. Okay, tandaan na nga ta x-coordinate because x ang may value. Tandaan po yan, x ang may value and it's always opposite. Okay, opposite. Then, for the axis of symmetry, whatever yung may square, yun din ang nasa left side. So, x equals the horizontal and y equals the k value of the focus. Okay? While itong h is the x coordinate of the focus. Okay, let's proceed to the example. I'll give only two examples. The first example is applying the formula, yung presented kanina na formula. Yun ang babasihan natin pagkuha nito. And the second example, I will use the shortcut technique na pwede natin gamitin kung paano makuha ang length of LR, opening of the graph, focal distance, the vertex, the standard form, the focus, and the endpoint of LR. Our first example is, given the equation of a parabola in general form, x squared minus 4x minus 8y minus 4 equals 0. Determine the following. The length of LR, the opening of the graph, the focal distance represented by P, the vertex represented by HK, the standard form, the focus, and the endpoints of the latus rectum. Our first step here is to write the given. Always write the given. So if kung notice nyo, lahat ng mga video presentation ko, ang mga solution ay laging sinusulat ang given. Bakit? Para lesson ang pag-commit nyo ng mistake, yung being carelessness. So, kinokopya yung given at titingnan nyo kung tama yung pagkakopya nyo ng given. Next step is to write the equation in standard form. Okay? So, remember that the given is x squared minus 4x minus 8y minus 4 equals 0. When you write the equation in standard form, tingnan nyo ang variable na may square. Ang may square na variable dito ay x. So, lahat ng may x, ilalagay natin sa left side at yung walang x to the other side of the equation. Take note, when you transpose term to the other side of the equation, you always change the sign of the term. So it became now x squared minus 4x plus blank equals 8y. Bakit naging 8y? Kasi negative 8y yan. When you transpose, it became positive 8y. This is negative 4. When you transpose, magiging positive 4. Bakit may bakante sa left side? Because our task here is to make this a perfect square trinomial. We have the code PST plus or PST minus. Pag sinabing PST minus, the sign of the middle term is negative. Pag PST plus, the sign of the middle term is positive. Okay? Okay, ano yung iso-substitute natin dito sa bakante? Okay, ang iso-substitute natin dito sa bakante ay ito yung proseso. Get the coefficient of the middle term and always divide it by 2. Tandaan ha? First step, get the coefficient of the middle term and always divide it by 2. So it is 4 over 2 or 2. Okay? Lowest term ng 4 over 2 is 2. And then, the result, you are going to square. Diba? 4 over 2 is 2. So 2 times 2, when we say square, you multiply it to itself. So 2 times 2 is 4. Yang result na yan na po ang idadagdag as third term to make it a perfect square trinomial. So ilalagay dito ang 4, ilalagay din sa kabila ang 4. Don't forget of that. This is already a perfect square trinomial. Our next step is to change this perfect square trinomial to square of a binomial. Ano yung square of a binomial? Open parenthesis, then square root of the first term, copy the sign of the middle term, then square root of the last term, close parenthesis, then lagyan nyo ng square. Okay, tingnan natin kung ano nangyari dito. So it became now the square of x minus 2y. Square root of x squared is x. Kokopyahin po ang sign ng middle term. It's always kokopyahin po ang sign ng middle term and square root of the last term is 2. Then, close it with close parenthesis, then lagyan nyo ng square. At ang nasa right side ay isi-simplify natin. So, walang kasimilar yung 8y, kokopyahin lang natin 8y, then 4 plus 4 is 8. Okay. Next niyan ay if-factor na natin yung nasa right side. Common yung 8. There are two terms, 8y plus 8. Okay, the GCF or the greatest common factor of these two terms is 8. Okay, susulat na natin yung 8 as the first factor. Then maglalagay kayo ng open parenthesis. You divide the first term sa previous step nyo by 8. So 8y divide 8 is y. Then the second term, 8 divide 8 is 1. And you close it with parentheses. And this is now the standard form of the given general form x squared minus 4x minus 8y minus 4 equals 0 of a parabola. Yan na po ang standard form. Pag naka-standard na yan, makukuha na natin ang focus. Okay, focus. No, the vertex. Makukuha na natin ang vertex. Okay? So, remember that this is the standard form of the equation. Take note, makukuha na rin natin kaagad ang length of the latus rectum. Okay? So, The length of the ratus rectum is represented by 4p, okay? Which is equal to 8. Tandaan ha, the length of the latus rectum is the coefficient ng nasa right side, which is 8. So how to get p? I-divide mo lang sa 4. 8 divide 4 is 2. Pero paano nangyari ang 2? Length of LR is 8 equals 4p. Divide both side by 4. And the answer is 2. 8 divide 4 is 2. This is our p. This is the value of our P. Okay. Pag may P na tayo, makukuha mo na po ang focus. Okay? So, makukuha mo ng focus, makukuha mo ng opening of the graph, the endpoints of the latus rectum, the axis of symmetry, the directrix. Unahin natin ang focal distance represented by P. So, that is P equals 2. Paano naman yung opening of the graph? Ang opening ng graph is yung reference nyo, yung coefficient ng y plus 1, which is 8. Pag positive siya, upward. Bakit upward? Kasi ang may square ay x. Tandaan ha? And the vertex represented by hk, ito na po. The opposite ng negative 2 is positive 2 and the opposite of positive 1 is negative 1. Bakit kinukuha yung opposite? Kasi sa standard form ng parabola, ang formula baga ay x minus h squared equals p times the quantity of y minus k. So minus meaning you need to change the sign. That is why we have 2 and negative 1. How about for the focus? I-discuss ko na ha, kahit meron tayong formula, ano yung technique natin? Titingnan nyo yung standard form. Ang nasa right side bagang variable na hindi siya square ay y. Therefore, yung value ng p, idadagdag natin sa y-coordinate ng vertex. Ang vertex niya ay k, which is negative 1 plus 2. Unlike sign, you subtract 2 minus 1 is 1 and the sign is positive. How about naman yung x-coordinate? Kinokopya lang po. Ang focus and vertex, ang h-coordinate ay kinokopya. Okay, we have 2, 2. Paano kinokopya ang focus? Yung may square niya ay x, meaning kinokopya ang focus. Kung y yan, kinokopya ang sa y. Tandaan ha. How about naman sa latus rectum? Whatever the value of the y-coordinate of the focus, kukopyahin din ang y-coordinate ng endpoints of the latus rectum. We have 1, 1. At how about yung x-coordinate? Ay i-divide mo lang yung length ng LR by 2 which is 4 at yun ang idadagdag mo sa x-coordinate ng vertex. Our vertex is 2 plus 4 is 6. 2 minus 4 is negative 2. Yun, ang bilis na. Then tandaan, pag ang may square ay x, ang axis of symmetry ay x equals the x-coordinate of the vertex. So that is why x equals 2. How about directrix? The opposite. So yung walang square. So may square ay x, therefore ang variable na kukunin natin ay y. Y equals, it's the opposite of the focus of the y-coordinate. This is k plus p, it became k minus p. So negative 2 plus negative 1 is negative 3 equals y. Take note, ng axis of symmetry and directrix are equations. Or, yes, equations. Linear equations. While vertex and focus and endpoints of latus rectums are coordinates. Okay, malinaw po? I hope so. Let's proceed to another example. Magsa-shortcut na tayo ha. Given the equation of a parabola in general form, y squared minus 8x minus 2y plus 9 equals 0. Determine the following: the length of LR, the opening of the graph, the focal distance, the vertex, the standard form, the focus, and the endpoint of LR. Ganito lang po. Ang may square niya y, therefore, ang kukunin nyo na length of LR ay yung coefficient ng variable na opposite sa may square, which is x. And the coefficient is 8. Yun ang sagot sa letter A. And then, yung coefficient ng x ay 8, i-divide mo sa 4, yun na ang focal distance. 8 divided 4 is 2. Yun ang sagot digdi sa C. How about opening of the graph? Ang opening of the graph, ito lang ang basehan mo itong negative 8x. When you transpose to the other side, magiging positive 8x. It means positive ang coefficient ng x. So opening of the graph is to the right. Bakit to the right? Kasi ang may square ay variable y. Pag variable y, not function, meaning ang opening ng graph ay sideward. Tandaan ha, sideward. Kung ang may square x, upward or downward. So may sagot na tayo. Sagot na tayong letter A, may sagot ng letter B, may sagot ng letter C. Ang dali-dali. How about yung vertex and standard? Of course, it's better if we write this in a standard form. Makukuha mo na yan. Okay, let's proceed. Given the equation in general form, which is y squared minus 8x minus 2y plus 9 equals 0. Yes, ito ang sabi ko. To get for the length of LR, ang reference nyo lang ay yung may square, which is y. Your reference variable of the second degree term, which is y. Kukunin nyo yung variable na opposite of this second degree, which is x. Coefficient of the opposite variable, which is x. The coefficient is 8. That's the length of the LR. So 8 units. Lagi may units because that's referring to distance. That's shortcut. Easy. Okay? How about sir kung may square, may coefficient na greater than 1 yung y squared, of course, you divide it first. That's always positive. Now, next shortcut. Given the equation the same in general form, y squared minus 8x minus 2y plus 9 equals 0. Opening of the graph. Ang reference naman natin yung may square ay y. Okay? To the right or to the left ito. Kasi ang reference natin ay variable y. Pag ang may square ay y, ang graph niya ay opening to the right or to the left. Pero paano natin malalaman kung to the right or to the left? Titignan nyo yung term na opposite variable sa y, which is x. Okay? At titingnan nyo yung sign ng x, which is negative, get the opposite sign. Opposite sign is positive, meaning to the right yung graph. Since the opposite sign is positive, the graph opening is to the right. So, yun lang ang shortcut niyan. Ito naman, focal distance. Paano naman natin makukuha yung focal distance? The same. The reference is yung may square, ay y. That's our reference. And then, ang magiging reference natin ay yung opposite na variable, which is x. Coefficient of the opposite variable, which is x, which is 8. I-divide lang natin sa 4. 1/4 of LR and always positive. Tandaan ha? So, length of LR is 8. Divide 4 is 2. That's the value of P. This is P. Itong C is P yan. P equals 2. Hindi C. But you can use other letters. So, nagkamali dito. Dapat parareho. This is P, this is also P. Kung C yan, C man yan. But sa formulang ginawa natin ay P. P. So, P equals 2. So, meron na tayo. Ano na lang? That's the focal distance. And the focal distance is positive. Tandaan ha? Itong positive is the direction. That's referring to the direction. Okay? That's going to the right. Next is, what is the vertex of the given parabola? Okay? The vertex of the given parabola, of course, it's better if you write that in standard form. Pero alam nyo, may shortcut din ito. Okay? Ano ang shortcut ng pagkuha ng vertex? Get the, or ang reference natin, all terms with same variable of second degree. Ang mga terms na may second degree natin ay y squared, or the variable of second, all terms with same variable of second degree terms, so we have y. So y squared and negative 2y. How to get for the derivative? Pagkuha ng derivative, ang formula niyan is multiply the coefficient of y squared times the exponent. That's the new coefficient. Then what happened to the variable? You copy the variable. And what happened to the exponent? You subtract the exponent by 1. Okay, let's try. So it became 1 times 2 is 2. Copy the variable y. Subtract the exponent by 1. It became 1. And this one, negative 2 times the exponent is 1. So negative 2. Bakit nawala yung y? Because the exponent is 1 minus 1. It became 0. Y to the 0 is 0. That is why we have here 2. So, pag na-solve na yan, equate to 0. Kaya nagkaroon tayo ng equal 0 and solve for y. We solve for y, 2y equals 2. We transpose negative 2 to the other side. And then we divide both sides by 2. Y equals 1. And this is the k value of the vertex. How to get for the x value? Of course, you just substitute that to the original equation. So we have y squared, okay, minus 8x minus 2y plus na equals 0. So, ang y natin ay 1. Y 1 squared minus 8x minus 2 times 1 plus na equals 0. Then simplify, 1 squared is 1, negative 8x, negative 2 times 1 is negative 2 plus na equals 0. Okay? Retain negative 8x sa left at yung mga constant, simplify and then transpose to the right. This is positive 1, yung 9 positive, add. 9 plus 1, 10. Then negative 2, subtract. 10 minus 2 is 8. Transpose 8 to the other side, it became negative 8. And we divide both sides by negative 8 kasi dapat x lang dito. So negative 8x divide negative 8 is x. Negative 8 divide negative 8 is 1. And this is the value of x and the value of h of the vertex. Tingnan nyo, kahit hindi tayo nag-standard form, makukuha natin ang vertex applying this technique. Okay. Kung hindi nyo ito gamay, gamitin nyo yung standard form. Our vertex is 1, 1. Or i-standard form nyo. Pag may vertex na kayo, okay, the equation is, okay, the standard form, okay? Paano natin naman makukuha ang standard form nito? So, lahat ng may variable y, kasi second degree, reference natin ay vertex value in LRN direction. Our vertex is 1, 1, and our LR is positive 8. So, madali lang naman. Therefore, y, kasi meron ka ng vertex. Pag may vertex ka na, ito na. So, y minus 1 squared equals, ang LR natin ay positive 8. So, lagyan mo na lang ng 8 times x minus 1. Di ba? Hindi na kayo nag-apply ng completing the square. Ang ginawa natin, technique na lang po. Shortcut technique. Okay? On how to write this. Okay? On how to write this in standard form. See? It's easy. And that is already in standard form. Okay, meron pa? The focus. Paano naman ang technique ng focus? Sabi ko nga sa inyo, okay, ang vertex baga natin ay 1, 1. Okay? Now, ang variable na may second degree ay y. Kuha na, may y. Okay? Ang hindi second degree ay x. Okay? Pag vertex, kung ano yung may second degree, yun ang, okay, yun po ang kinokopya. Ang may second degree natin ay y, kaya kinokopya lang yung y sa focus. Ang walang second degree ay x, kaya doon i-add yung x value ng vertex as the value of the focus. O, tingnan natin. The p value is positive 2. Okay? Then, kokopyahin lang natin yung vertex, yung k value ng vertex as the value of k value ng focus. Then, for the h value ng vertex, which is 1, i-add lang natin itong, okay, p, value ng p. 1 plus 2 is 3. So, that's the x-coordinate of the focus and 1 is the y-coordinate of the focus. Okay? Another, the axis of symmetry. Sabi ko nga sa inyo, ang reference dito of the vertex is K in the leading coefficient. The vertex K is 1, okay? And the leading coefficient is 8. Okay, so 1. Yan lang reference mo. And the leading variable. Our leading variable is Y. Tandaan lang, yun lang ang shortcut. The leading variable, Y. And the value of the vertex. The x coordinate of the vertex. See? Ang dali-dali, kinokopya lang. Okay, directrix, it's the opposite. Reference, value of the vertex h and not leading variable. Not leading is x, so therefore x equals. And opposite of p, that's positive, kukunin natin negative. Okay, so x equals 1 minus 2. Okay, x equals 1 minus 2 is negative 1. And this is the equation of the directrix. Okay. Meron pa. Endpoints of LR. Okay. Our reference here are value of the focus. This is the value of the focus. Kukopyahin mo lang yung x value, which is 3. And the p value is 2. Dudublehin mo or times 2, which it became 4. Yun ang idadagdag sa y value. Okay? Kinokopya lang yung x. So we have 3 and 3. At yung sa y value ay 1 plus or minus twice of p. So 4, 1 plus 4 is 5 or 1 minus 4 is negative 3. And that's the endpoints or coordinates of the endpoints of the latus rectum. Okay, if you notice, yun lang po. Then, for next video, I'll give another video shortcut, additional exercises on how to get the standard form, the vertex, the focus, the coordinates of the endpoints of the latus rectum using the shortcut method. Okay, nag-enjoy po ba kayo?